Thank you all for joining the first conversation in what I expect to be a series of discussions on law firm growth. I would say it's no secret that as a macro kind of environment, we're heading into some decently trying economic times. I think now more than probably ever, we're hearing from law firms and our customers really express a desire to really create those sustainable pathways to both near-term and long-term growth for their firms. And so we're hoping these series of discussions really provide some insight into tangible frameworks, but also tools that law firms can be leveraging to really achieve this growth for their firms. So super excited about this discussion. It's our first one of these around this specific topic recently. I think this whole crew here is very excited. For those of you all who I have not had the pleasure to meet personally just yet, I am Mayowa Oyebadejo, the VP of Marketing at PracticePanther, and I lead all of our customer acquisition and customer education initiatives, as well as partnerships with bar associations and the likes. Have the pleasure of being joined by an all-star cast here today. We have Marie Burgess, who's a VP of product for PracticePanther, leads all product development for our platform, as well as Bob Canaway, who's the CMO of Legalfit and Centerbase. And so we'll throw to them to let them introduce themselves, as well as talk a little bit about our platforms for any of you all who aren't as familiar. Marie,
yeah, thanks. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mayowa. Yeah, I'm excited for this topic today. I think there's going to be some good content and probably some good questions at the end that I'm definitely looking forward to. So as Mayowa said, I'm the VP of product at PracticePanther. I'll talk a little bit about the solution for those that are familiar. PracticePanther is an all-in-one legal practice management solution targeted at small to mid-sized law firms and really for any specific practice area. It has an easy to use modern interface that essentially helps automate the practice for the law firm. It helps law firms get more work done faster so that you're able to spend less time on administrative work, paperwork, and more time on billable client work. There's a number of embedded workflows that can help you automate and streamline business processes such as client intake, which is going to be one of the topics that we're going to be actually talking about today. And then there's a number of native embedded capabilities such as e-signature and text messaging that are just available out of the box with PracticePanther that will help from a client communication, a client relationship perspective, and certainly sort of keep your case on track and remove sort of any kind of bottlenecks or disruptions. It's got some robust billing and invoicing, and we also have a native built-in payment processing that can help dramatically improve how firms get paid. We can go to Bob, yeah.
Great, thanks, Mayowa, Maria. Really great to join you today. Excited about the presentation. Real quick about our Legalfit product. This is powering, think of it like a marketing platform that powers law firm websites. We do about 1,500 customer websites driving their brand, client, and growth experiences. We also support our customers with marketing services to help with search engine optimization and to help with lead generation through Google AdWords. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but really the focus here is helping increase visibility of the firm and drive client growth.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Marie. So you all, for discussion today, as we mentioned, a great set of topics planned. We'll start with taking a bit of a look at what we're seeing in the market as it pertains to the outlook on law firm growth, specifically here more recently, and what it means for the coming year. We'll then do a bit of a deep dive into the two dimensions that we at PracticePanther think are very determinant of law firm growth, and what this means for each of you and the firms that you're kind of operating both near term and in the long term. And then we'll do a deep dive further into just one of those dimensions, which is market presence, which will of course be the focus of today's conversation, and then wrap up with a bit of a look at how PracticePanther and Legalfit have kind of partnered together to really help law firms establish their presence in the market. And we will reserve time at the end of the webinar for Q&A. So any questions you all have, feel free to drop in the Q&A chat, and we'll sift through some of those and speak to them here at the end of the conversation. Cool. So you all, when it comes to the outlook on law firm growth rates, I think there are a few interesting stats that you start to see trend when you look at the sentiment, as I mentioned in the past several months. I trust that many of you all have probably seen the recent Thomson Reuters report on the state of small law firms in the U.S. Things have become a bit of a staple in the industry in the past few years, but there were some really interesting insights in the one that came out Q4 of last year, where it states that 60% of lawyers, and the report focuses predominantly on law firms with 10 or less attorneys, but 60% of lawyers are stating that they expect to see high to moderate growth for their firm in terms of revenues, billable hours, profits for their firm as a whole, but also profits per lawyer. Yet 72% of law firms state that they're seeing significant, or at least moderate challenge acquiring new clients for their firm. In addition to that, also competition is growing from both the do-it-yourself legal services and websites out there that you start to see becoming a bit more common in practice areas like in estate planning, where clients are leveraging those maybe instead of actual formal counsel or representation, but also competition from large law firms, where a lot of large law firms have seen growth plateau to a certain degree in the most recent years and are starting to punch down and compete for some of the business that typically reserved for smaller law firms. And then lastly, firms are also seeing a bit of challenges as it pertains to spending a lot of time on those non-billable tasks and administrative activities. So it's interesting when you read all these combined into one report that tied back to a really optimistic outlook, right? So firms, they're positive that they're going to continue to grow, yet they're having a hard time acquiring new business. They're seeing greater competition, and bandwidth is becoming increasingly limited, right? So it's a bit of a mixed bag, and there's room for growth, but certainly challenges that firms want to address in order to help them realize that. And I think we see the sentiment a lot, right? Me and Marie talk about this. We talk about this with a lot of folks internally, is that these are the questions that are coming up when we talk to our current customers, or we're out at bar association events talking to firms, right? There are a lot of questions that are top of mind for law firms. And here are some of the ones that we're currently hearing a lot in the marketplace, right? It's, hey, I want to grow, but how do I take on more clients when my staff is already extremely overworked? Or if I want to, gain more clients, how much should I be investing in terms of my marketing budget as a percent of firm revenue, right? Or what are the best marketing channels for a firm of my size? Or, how do I assess the ROI and optimize those for the marketing activities that I'm engaged in? Again, firms are optimistic, right? But they're confident that they can do it and they can grow, but there seems to be some boulders in their path that they want to figure out how to navigate to effectively allow them to do so in a sustainable manner. And so, this is an important set of topics. And so at PracticePanther, I guess probably mid last year, we took the kind of initiative to collate all the questions that we were hearing from the market and our customers, and really started to codify the guidance around what we've understood to work for law firms when thinking about their growth. We put out something called the Law Firm Growth Matrix, which we'll cover here in a bit, and some of you have already taken the quiz. But the crux of it is that there's two dimensions that as I discussed before, that we think can be really powerful in determining law firm growth trajectories, and that's scalability and that's market presence for law firms. And we think if firms can nail these two things and be performing well in each of these dimensions, they have a real chance at sustaining growth for the law firm, even in perhaps what may be a contracting economic environment. So we'll spend the next session kind of digging into what these two dimensions are. All right, so scalability is the first dimension that we have in our growth matrix in terms of how we think about things. And let's start by defining what we mean by scalability. All right, so the definition here on the left: if your law firm's operational capacity to take on new clients as defined by your current systems, resources, and processes, right? This is key. What we found is that law firms that perform low on this dimension will ultimately find themselves usually struggling to grow due to operational constraints. They'll almost always be limited by their firm's bandwidth. And so as you think about, well, and how does my firm fare at this? What does this mean for us? I think there's a few questions that you can simply start to ask to kind of understand how it is that your firm is actually performing on this dimension. And if you guys that have already taken the quiz, you may know some of this, but we've included some of them at a high level here on the right-hand side. Go through this list and think about it, whether it's now or afterwards. How does your firm kind of look at it in a scale of manual to more automated, right? As you go through each one of these, right? So how manual is a process for new client intake, right? Even if your firm can do it fast, if it's actually very manual and one person's doing it and they're actually taking very prescribed steps, that's actually not going to allow you to scale. Same for time tracking, billing, payment processing, right? How often is someone at your firm having to follow up with a client for payment or manually process invoices one by one? Document management, securing signatures, scheduling client meetings, how these all look, right? The more manual, the less scalable your firm is going to be in the long term. And the more automated, the more set up your firm is going to be to perform well on this specific dimension. And then the next dimension, market presence, which of course will be our focus here today. And we'll have another session in the coming weeks on scalability specifically. But what we mean here by market presence is your firm's ability to attract new clients as defined by your visibility in the market. Right now, your firm's performance on this dimension is informed by a few different things, and it can be a little harder to assess because, like as you see by this list on the right-hand side, there could be a few best practices implicit in each of these things, right? And so there's things related to whether your firm operating a great website, whether it's SEO optimized, what your budget looks like based on your revenues and your firm size and practice area, and also how you're optimizing ROI. Again, it can be a little harder to assess if you don't have the right benchmarks and best practices, but that's why we wanted to start with this session. And I think Bob's going to dig into a lot of this and how they think about things at Legalfit here today. Now, so if these are the two dimensions, right, what is it that they mean for your firm? You're likely going through these questions and trying to assess, all right, how does this look for our firm? And so we're going to dig into what these actually mean and how they can impact the actual growth trajectory of your own law firm. Okay, so as mentioned, we have taken those dimensions and defined what we call the law firm growth matrix. There's a website here at the bottom on the PracticePanther, a page on the PracticePanther website here at the bottom where you can actually take a quiz if you haven't already and get a directional idea of where your firm may plot on this matrix. But really what this does is give you a projection of your law firm's growth trajectory based on these two dimensions. So there's 4 quadrants, obviously, and they each suggest a potential growth trajectory for your firm based on your answers to the questions in this on these 2 dimensions. So I'll walk through these really quickly and what they could mean for different firms. So the first one that we have here is high velocity, upper right. This is where you want to be. These are firms that are achieving consistent year-over-year top line growth, and oftentimes bottom line as well. They have a strong market presence, automated processes that allow them to scale, right? And depending on the size of the firm, they can, likely what we're going to see for these firms is they're experiencing perhaps double-digit growth rates year over year, right? And this is where we want firms to be. This is where we're trying to urge folks to think about the processes that allow them to be kind of in this quadrant for growth. The next one we have here is the top left, the cruising altitude. Here, very scalable, right? They've defined the right processes and infrastructure for their firm, but little market presence. They've reached a steady state operationally for their firm that could absorb growth very well. They just may not be investing in a strong market presence or practices that allow them to capitalize on that fully. So depending on the practice area, the quality of the service, NPS scores, the growth rate for firms typically in this profile will range from low to high single digits and possibly into the low teens. Kind of just depends on the word of mouth, which is driving a lot of the growth for their firm. Not a bad place to be. I think we see a lot of law firms, a lot of our customers here, but obviously there's opportunity that they may be leaving on the table by not investing a bit more in the market presence. And then bottom right here, holding pattern, significant market presence. They've got kind of the right playbook down as it pertains to this type of growth. but lower on the efficiency dimension. These firms can oftentimes absorb, observe double-digit growth rates for a period of time, but oftentimes that won't last long. What we see for firms that we work with is if they have low efficiency, they're always or limited by organic bandwidth, right? They're always going to have to hire a ton of folks, right, to perform the functions of their firm, or start to suffer in a bit of client services. And so this is a thing that we don't want to see our customers or the market or any firms that we work with going through, right? And so it could ultimately either impact their NPS scores for their firms, or ultimately their profit margins if they're over hiring. And so either way, may experience growth rate for a decent amount of time, but won't be able to sustain that in the long term. So certainly not where you want to be. And then going into the last quadrant, we have what we call Mayday, which is low efficiency in terms of processes operationally, and then also low investment in market presence. And these firms are likely not going to be able to sustain growth year over year, right? And it won't be long, especially in an environment like we're dealing with from an economic standpoint, before they're actually starting to lose money year over year. So if you guys haven't taken the quiz, go to the growth quiz. We have a lot of, it's free. You can take it, a lot of resources there, but let's spend a little bit more time digging into the bottom dimension here of market presence, which I think we have a great kind of playbook for you guys to think about. And I'll throw it over to Bob.
Thanks, Mayowa. This is a really great way of thinking about where law firms are, and hopefully, hopefully no one's on the bottom left. But if you are, I think there's some good resources to help you out on this meeting. So but hopefully not. You're hopefully not there. So let's talk about what it means to establish market presence. And if we go backwards, in time, even not too far into the past, for law firms, market presence was a physical thing for the most case. Some of the more serious questions were, how big a yellow page ad should we buy, and should we maybe advertise on radio or local television, and what events should we sponsor, right? Like, so it was very, very personal, very very physical driven. What we're going to talk about today is more of where this has shifted, even locally over the last decade or so. And this is more about establishing that digital marketing presence, which has become pretty much one of the most important touch points for us with our clients. And so so the first thing is, when I talk to law firms about this, is you have to understand your ICP, and ICP is ideal customer profile. So what does that client look like that you want to have walk through that door, right? Like what's the perfect client look like? And then once you've got that established, I'm sure you already know, ask them what they search for, right? When they're looking for an attorney, what are they searching for? How do they go about it? What, for your practice areas, what would they look for that may not necessarily be as direct as, I want to hire an estate attorney, right? Like it might be a little bit more subtle, but think about what they're searching for. Once you understand that, everything for digital marketing more or less revolves around our websites, and making sure that we have updated content. We'll get into a little bit more why that's important in a second. But it's your digital curb appeal, right? If it's the first thing a lot of your clients are going to see, or prospective clients are going to see, before they even get a chance to talk to you or talk to any of attorneys at the firm. The next one is consistent organic and inorganic traffic, right? So as we're establishing this market presence, one of the things that we can keep an eye on to make sure that our efforts are actually driving results for us is seeing that traffic change. And the difference between organic and inorganic is organic is natural search, right? So somebody goes in and searches for something, they click on one of those search results, not an ad, not local, but click on one of the search results, and they get to you. You don't pay for that. Inorganic is something that you're going to pay for. That could be a Google AdWord. That could be an advertisement somewhere else. but you're able to drive that by feeding more money into that engine. Capture and convert leads. This is how effective your your client intake is from the website, and that's ability to get somebody to fill out a form, or if you have chat on your website, to engage with chat, and then converting them is really from there on, right? So how are you able to engage them through your intake, and make sure that they're the right type of client for your firm, and then get them to become a client. And then finally, social media marketing. And this really drives your sort of conversation with the market, right? So if the website and content, is the foundation of all of this, social media marketing is about getting your brand out into the different channels where your clients are participating. And that could be, it could be Facebook if you're more consumer oriented, or it could be LinkedIn if you're more business oriented, for example. All right. All right, so let's talk a little bit about importance of the law firm website. So one interesting statistic, and I found this consistent across lots of different types of industries, but it's 57% of users won't recommend a business with a poorly designed website on mobile. It's a reality of today's day and age. A decade ago, mobile was sort of a secondary channel to engage with our customers and clients. Now, most engagement starts on mobile. People, as no surprise, love to use their phones, and that's when they have the idea that they need to hire an attorney for something. They're probably sitting around their kitchen table, not sitting at their desk, and they're going to go right to their mobile phone. So this is a really important channel for us today. Another one is 88% of users won't return to a website after they had a bad user experience. And so this is really making sure that user experience meets the needs of the person that's come to your site. And we're not going to get into ADA compliance or any of that sort of stuff, but there are a lot of things that you need to factor into that experience, not just the imagery or the text. And then blogs, firms that blog increase their leads, and it's something, and I'll talk about it in a second, but something we see in our customer base and the firms that we work with. All right, and web marketing, which is sort of the broader category, can be challenging, right? Especially, the way I sort of think about it is, I've been a CMO for about a decade or so. I have to hire specialists to do some of these things. Just the ability to keep up with what's going on, what's changing, how attitudes have changed, and how things like Google change has become really difficult. And so this is why I'm excited to have this conversation, because we've been able to help a lot of law firms keep up with this very challenging and ever-changing landscape. But I thought some of these stats were interesting. We've kind of hit on this a little bit, but 70% of people look for attorneys online before they go anywhere else. I was just hanging out in one of the Facebook forums or groups for the city I live in, and just looked up, lawyer, just to search to see, and there's dozens and dozens of people asking for recommendations, and I recommend doing this and seeing what people say, and kind of how they think about this in a digital perspective. But it was definitely eye-opening. 21% of the people surveyed believe that the Google rank, so where your firm shows up in Google's listing, is based on your qualifications, right? So, like that one was shocking to me, right? So it's not, so they're connecting the Google's ranking in terms of search, right, with actual qualifications of the person that comes back. And then the last one is 70% of web traffic is directed through Google. This one is super interesting because what's happened is most people, for example, don't bother typing in www.lawfirm.com. They just type in law firm. And then Google, shows them a list, and they'll go to the first, the first thing that they see. And there's some reasons why that's it's a good thing in some ways, but it's also a bad thing, for marketing a firm, because one of your competitors could buy your firm name and show up before you on your list. So back to that other point where people aren't really discerning and thinking about why Google's putting things in a certain order. They may just click on that link, and then you end up with some competition. So all right, let's go to the next one. Yeah, so we just covered this. Next. Right, so I just wanted to break down, when somebody types in this case, I typed in, I need an estate lawyer. When somebody types that in, I just want to break down sort of the different sections of what comes back, right? And so if you're thinking about market presence in terms of our ability to reach, our targets, this first group is all advertisements. This is sometimes called PPC, but these are Google AdWords in that first section, and they're bidded on, and somebody typically will manage them. We manage these for our customers, and an interesting thing here, we manage so many of our customers' AdWord campaigns. We have insight into how much each of the leads from one of these ads would cost, right? So for example, in estate law, we know that nationally it's about $170 per lead, right? So expect to spend $170 in Google AdWords to get one client lead, and then you have to figure out how many client leads you need to actually get a client, and that'll tell you how much, and then how many clients you want from this channel, and then just multiply all that together, and it'll tell you how much your budget needs to be here. And as I said earlier, your competitors for these eyes can bid on your name. For example, they can bid on anything, any search term really that they want. And so that comes up here. I'm going to skip the circled section for a second, go to local SEO. These are the listings that Google puts in for various businesses. You have to fill in the listing, and Google will provide it for people searching for, in this case, estate law. And Google orders these based on the reviews, based on proximity, based on a couple of other factors. And so you really need to make sure you're optimizing that that listing so that your firm shows up, in the search terms. And then the final piece is the organic or SEO, and these are firms and other things, listing services and so on, that are showing up for that search term. I need an estate lawyer. What I circled was really interesting, and this is a firm that's local to the area that I'm in, that showed up before the local SEO. Everything always shows up after AdWords. That's how Google makes their money. But this one showed up before the listings, and so when you dig in, it's just their site credibility for that search term was so much higher than everything else. Google listed it in front, and that's what Google's looking for. So Mayo, can you go to the next, please? All right. Yeah, and so we talked a little bit about this, but this whole idea of market presence, right, and brand visibility are really important in driving business development for firms. So we talked about findability, reputation with your clients, and the legal community. It actually starts to intertwine, right? And so if you can get positive reviews from your clients on Google, on other sites that review law firms and attorneys, that will increase the performance of your website, in terms of driving traffic there. Digital listings are super important. We talked about how they view online, and how reviews are the first stop. So, all right, covered all of this. Yeah, so this is an update. Google makes, when I first started doing digital marketing, Google made updates like every 6 months, right? And every 6 months or so, they'd make an update, and then everybody would scramble to understand what the heck happened. Why did our ranking go down? Whoa, our ranking went up. We must have been doing something right, and we'd spend time trying to understand it. I didn't put it in this deck, but I have a slide that shows just the last 2 weeks of Google updates, right? And there's probably 2 or 3 dozen that could have an impact on site performance. But I like this one because the idea here is, Google is selling search, really. I mean, they sell AdWords, that's how they make their money. But if you think about their search customers, right, they're trying to accomplish something, right? They're trying to in the case of finding an estate lawyer, like they're trying to accomplish something that's important to them. And if Google gives them a good experience at finding it, and if what they found is useful to helping accomplish that problem, right, you'll go back to Google and use Google again, right? And that's why when we talk about helpful content, and this was an update that they made last September, right, we want to provide educational content. We want to provide content that helps the person who's looking for that thing accomplish it. And so Google in this update figured out how to increase the value, or in this case, the search ranking for valuable content, and then reduce the search ranking for poor content. So our website is really a key part of this. If we can go to the next slide. So we talk about this from a content marketing perspective in terms of making your content eat. And so it stands for expertise, authority, and trust. And so, we're no longer in this place where, and if we really dissected that firm that was outperforming on that search results, their content follows this model. Their website is not just a digital brochure. It's not just the shingle, right? It's actually driving value to people searching for those things. And so to do this, we have to create original, helpful, high quality content. We have to position our firms as leaders in our respective, geography, practice area, parts of the law that we focus on. And so about us pages, author pages, be real, like we help a lot of our customers write blogs and write practice pages and this sort of stuff. But it all starts from our relationship with the law firms that we work with and making that real. Establishing reputation, and getting client reviews. This has become pretty much one of the most important things in digital marketing and establishing market presence. It's really super important. This isn't like the Uber. If you didn't get a 5-star, you got a 0. This is really the actual words that people put into these reviews, and the length of the reviews has an impact on reputation. And then getting authoritative backlinks, and this has been something that has been both controversial and important at the same time. And so Google doesn't want us going out and buying back, like farming backlinks is probably the way I think about it. They want engagement, right? They want to see that people who are considered leaders in the content areas that you're writing about on your site are linking to you, right? They find you to be a credible source, right? So one credible source references another credible source. It raises the value and credibility of that second source. Great. All right, and so a little bit about how we've thought about this. We've built because there's a lot of hosting options for websites. I mean, there's probably 10,000 hosting options, at least for websites, from do it yourself to all sorts of other things. But we have focused on law firms, and we have I think we're up to about 1,700 customers now, and we're able to take all of that data and ascertain what makes for a good law firm website from a perspective of SEO, of client engagement, as well as brand and reputation. And so we've done this, and we've also put a lot of focus on ensuring that we comply with state bar rules. This can be a tricky thing to navigate when you're trying to build market presence. You want to get the word out there, but the bar does prescribe rules around how we're able to talk about different aspects of the law, and so we've made sure that's consistent, with those rules. All right. Yeah, and this one I wanted to show. We work with quite a few firms on digital marketing, and so we'll do things like like I said earlier, we'll write content, we'll do PPC, social, and so on, and local search results. And what we found, and it's probably, let's see if it's easy to see here. You can, we see about a 2x increase from our baseline. So just we typically see an increase in performance of moving firms to our marketing platform, to our website platform. Excuse me. And then if we add in local SEO, so that was that second group of links that I showed you, we see about 2x increase in firm traffic. That's what that blue line is down at the bottom. When we add in any other marketing service, so the other things I talked about, we see a 5x increase. And so we're able to see the performance of this. And this is really important, because if you're working with a marketing agency and they can't show you an improvement off your baseline, it's time to find another marketing agency. It's really important to track these things. And what's nice is we can track them. We can track them from we being an industry, but we also being Legalfit, but we can track them from website visit all the way to new client, particularly with the integrations, with PracticePanther, for example. And so we're able to really show that what we're doing, because we're going to spend money, right? Like we're going to spend money on marketing. It needs to be, it's an investment, and it needs to have some return. Otherwise, we should stop doing it, right? So, all right, go to the next one. Yeah, and then this sort of ties everything together. So we see sort of a website with a foundation with SEO and ADA compliance, with different types of marketing channels above them, and then reaching out to the marketplace, and then analytics and reporting. So this is what our overall platform looks like, in terms of what Legalfit customers get.
So how do we leverage the integration? So Bob mentioned that we've got an integration between PracticePanther and Legalfit, and how do we leverage that integration to kind of really support the law firm growth strategy from a scalability and from a market presence perspective? So I just want to talk a little bit about kind of the scope of the integration, and essentially our key objective, especially for this initial integration, was to look at automating the tracking of inbound leads that can be captured through Legalfit's marketing platform, essentially the law firm's website, through like a contact us or a request for more information form that's often embedded directly into that website, and then taking that information and automatically synchronizing, automatically integrating that lead information as a lead or contact directly within PracticePanther. So just providing that whole seamless experience so that once it's in PracticePanther, you can define who it's assigned to. So we may trigger sort of the next step in the intake or the onboarding process regarding scheduling a meeting, creating tasks for different people in the firm. So being able to leverage the existing PracticePanther capabilities to progress that intake process more seamlessly. Identifying these contacts in PracticePanther can be done really easily. The integration puts a Legalfit tag on these leads within PracticePanther, and PracticePanther uses tags extensively. Like many of our firms create custom tags for filtering and categorization of contacts and matters. And so we've leveraged this in the integration so that firms can very easily see the leads coming through from Legalfit and be able to do easy follow-up, filtering, and reporting based on that data. So making that whole process really fully automated for the firm. And this was just really the first step. Like we wanted to tie these two solutions together to provide a ton of value in the initial sort of onboarding process. But there are other integration touch points that we'll look at and collaborate together between PracticePanther and Legalfit in the future, whether it's related to intake forms or more workflow automation, or even links to the client portal. And so some of the benefits really, and kind of why we went through and looked at integrating these products, was really to deliver the ability for our PracticePanther firms to have an intuitive website, have it be able to be SEO ready or SEO optimized. So really take the Legalfit platform and either through the law firm or the Legalfit team, really create a customizable, personalized website that really reflects the law firm practice. And then embedding forms like the contact us forms and the other forms that can gather more information. So embedding those forms directly into the site then allows you to gather that information, and then with the integration with PracticePanther, feed all of that data, all of those leads and all those contacts directly into PracticePanther seamlessly and automatically. So dealing with two distinct systems, you'd have like duplicate data entry, manual processes to get those leads in as clients. This will automatically do that for you, reducing manual processes that are often prone to error. And then once you have the workflow processes, you have the onboarding, the intake processes within PracticePanther, you can then either through Legalfit or through PracticePanther have access to analytics and other reporting, key reporting data that gives really the law firm more information, so that, as Bob was saying, really tracking that marketing investment so you can see where you're spending money and what successes that you're getting from it. So we're really excited at the potential and the value that it's going to bring to our PracticePanther firms regarding their market presence and helping with that growth trajectory, and really what we can bring even further beyond this sort of initial phase of the integration. So super excited about the integration in general.
Awesome. Thanks, Marie. Thanks, Bob. So great, I think great work overall in terms of framing the thinking, but also just in terms of how the teams have played well with one another to develop a really robust integration that, of course, as you guys can tell, we are confident it's going to help law firms kind of in their path towards sustainable growth. So we'll open it up now to Q&A. Feel free to drop more questions in the Q&A kind of box there in Zoom, and I'll start teeing up a few of the ones that we already have. But feel free to drop more, and we'll try to cover as many as we can. We'll probably go for another 5 to 8 minutes or so. So I would say first one that we have here that I think is a really straightforward one, and I'll throw this one to Bob, is how long does it typically take to get a website built with Legalfit?
Under 30 days.
Okay, awesome.
So we're able to from when we have a new customer, get them up and running, particularly in small and mid-sized law firms, do them in under 30 days.
Okay, awesome. So the next one I think gets to a little bit of what Marie was just covering, but I'll throw it to, maybe we start with Bob, and then Marie, you take the back half of the question here. It's a bit of a two-parter. How can I tell if my website is actually providing a good ROI? And what features does PracticePanther and or Legalfit have to help with this?
Sure. I mean, ROI is going to depend on the type of practice, but assuming the practice is attempting to gather new clients through their website, that to me is a true measure of ROI for a website. And so we can help our customers ascertain that through our dashboards. And so, and what I like about this integration is that, you know, we can take it not only from lead, which is a lot of times where we stop, and take it all the way to new client, you know, which for me, like I said, you know, that's the true, you don't invest in marketing for marketing's sake, right? You invest in it either to get new clients, you know, or to improve the brand. And the brand's a lot harder to measure. That's a subjective thing typically. And just you know, on that, on brand, you have to actually go out and talk to your clients and understand, you know, how they perceive your brand. But new client acquisition, that to me is like, you know, if you can get to that, that's like the gold standard.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree, Bob. Like it's even on the PracticePanther side, looking at the conversion of those leads into new clients will be definitely a key metric. I mean, with the workflows in PracticePanther, you can also sort of track the stage that they're in within that intake process. If you've defined a specific set of steps that like that onboarding process goes to, and you may have one or more people dealing with the steps. So whether we're scheduling the initial consultation call, or whether we're assigning tasks internally or generating that initial engagement letter. So the different steps that exist in that process, we can also sort of track the progress along the way.
Well, Mayowa talked about scalability, you know, and this is something that I do with my marketing teams is, you know, we look at each of the steps, and each of those steps is an opportunity to improve our performance and our scalability. But if you don't have telemetry or visibility into it, you don't know where the problems are.
I agree. Related to that point, we actually have another question here, and I think I'll cover this, but you guys jump in with any additional points here. Is how do I determine if it's time to invest in scalability or market presence for my law firm? And I'll start, and of course, Bob and Marie jump in here. But what I would say is at least, and I would think about them a bit differently in terms of the two dimensions. But on the scalability front, I would say look at like some of those questions that we covered a few slides back. But I think one higher level view of it that's a bit of a lagging indicator is how much time are you or your staff spending on non-billable tasks, right? How much time are you actually getting to practice law versus the administrative side of your firm? And of course, some of that will range a bit by practice area, but if you're seeing that a lot of your time for you or your staff is actually spent on the non-billable administrative side, that's a key idea that there's probably some optimizations you want to make around the scalability end of things. And I think secondarily, if your firm is like constantly in a position of actually having to turn away new cases, new matters, new clients, because you just don't have the bandwidth, there's probably room for optimization through scalability. And on the market present front, I think some of this just depends on your ability to get just visibility into where your new clients are coming from, right? And so if you're not asking questions on like how do you hear about us or understand where they're coming in, it's going to be really hard to tell the base of how you're actually generating new client business. As we talked about, 72% of firms are saying like, hey, it is a challenge acquiring new business. And so I would say if the majority of your business is all coming through either repeat business and word of mouth, that's actually really great. That's really helpful and means you're very efficient in providing high value service. But there is room to actually grow your business if you have the bandwidth and operational capacity to do so through more increased and optimized market presence. Marie, Bob, anything that you guys would add on that question?
I think only that the tools exist to measure and analyze these things now.
Another one that we have here is specifically on PracticePanther. Does PracticePanther have or leverage a CRM to track contacts?
Yeah, I mean, today there's a level of CRM capability within PracticePanther through the various, like the tagging concepts, the categorization of contacts, the fact that these leads from Legalfit are coming into PracticePanther gives them the capability to track a lot of that information. And then we've got like a number of other reports that allow us to like get greater insight into leads versus clients based on the status that they're in that process.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think the really cool thing that is Marie and Bob were talking about the integration itself. So, you know, Bob mentioned the ability to just like, how much is your marketing, you know, what's the cost per new lead, right? And then, you know, once they close and so on, I think as you start to think about the overall, you know, billings and related to each client or matter, and then repeat business, I think the tag capability in PracticePanther that Marie was talking about allows you to really see the full funnel of not just the initial matter, but any additional matters with that client tied to the marketing source through Legalfit that you're able to actually generate. So pretty cool. Okay, I think that's the key. I think some of them kind of dovetail together. So I think those are the key questions that we have for today. Marie or Bob, anything else that you all would add that we have not covered kind of in the Q&A or any of the slides?
Not for me.
Nope.
Okay. I'll close this out. You all, thanks for joining again, first in a series of discussions. Great content today. So thank you, Marie. Thank you, Bob. I would say if any of you all aren't currently leveraging PracticePanther, we have the kind of demo link here. Sign up for a free demo and just get to walk through how it works, the features, and how it can actually be customized for your firm. And if you're not leveraging Legalfit and you are a PracticePanther customer, we have a bit of a discount going on where, you know, preferred kind of pricing on the website for PracticePanther customers. Feel free to go to legalfit.com, signal that you're a PracticePanther user. A lot of great functionality in terms of what you can do for your law firm in terms of generating growth. But again, thank you guys. I will be sending out the recording here in the coming days as well. Have a great week.